Number 2, comparing fractions. I'll be comparing 11 over 24 and 13 over 30 for the lowest common multiple and the easiest common denominator. For the least common multiple, I first made a factor tree of the two denominators, 24 and 30. I made the factor tree all the way to the prime numbers. I multiplied all of the prime numbers here within the m, and the least common multiple of 24 and 30 was 120. So I rewrote it here. 30 times 4 is 120. 24 times 5, 120. 11 times 5, 55. 13 times 4 is 52. 55 over 120 is greater than 52 over 120, meaning that 11/24 is larger than 13/30. And for the ECD, easiest common denominator, I just multiplied the two denominators to get 720. That's the denominator that I used down here. Multiplied this by 24 to get 312, and this by 30 to get 330. And 330 was larger than 312 is greater than 330 is greater than 312, therefore 11/24 is greater than 13/30. Number 3, simplifying an expression. 3/5 plus 1/3 divided by 4/5 minus 1/10. It's important that we rewrite this. This fraction bar here is a grouping symbol. That means division to divide. So use the order of operations. We have the top one grouped here and the bottom one grouped here. So we have 3/5 plus 1/3 divided by 4/5 minus 1/10. So in order to do that, I had to convert or get the common denominators for both here. Use the least common multiple of 5 and 3 to get 15, and the least common multiple of 5 and 10, 10. Rewrote the fractions. 9/15 plus 5/15 divided by 8/10 minus 1/10. Use the order of operations, so I had to solve them in groupings before dividing. 9/15 plus 5/15 equals 14/15, and 8/10 minus 1/10 is 7/10. Now I can divide. 14/15 divided by 17 using the reciprocal and invert. 14 over 15 times, inverting these, 10 over 7, and then I simplified before doing my multiplication. So I ended up simplifying here, and I got 2, 1 here, simplified here, 3, 2, and then I multiplied. I got 4/3, and then I did my division here to get the simplest form of 1 and 1/3. Number 4, option number 2. In this one, I'm going to convert this decimal into a fraction, 6.12353535. In order to do that, I need to write the decimal and the place value of each of the digits. So above here, I have the decimals and the place values for each. So here I have the ones place, the decimal, the tens place, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, hundreds, thousands, millions, 10 millions, and 100 millions. In order to write this decimal as a fraction, I can write it over the number 1. So you have it here in fraction form, but it's got a decimal. And we don't want to keep it as a decimal. We don't want to keep it as a decimal, so we want to have the numerator and denominator as an integer, no decimal. In order to get rid of the decimal, we need to multiply it over by 100 millions. And the reason why it's going to be 100 millions is because it's got 8 zeros in it, and this will move it over 8 places. So this will end up getting it over here on this n, no longer being a decimal. So if you multiply this decimal number here by 100 millionths, you will get this number over here. And this number can be simplified, but it is not necessary here. So for number 5, option 1, converting a decimal to a fraction to a percent, and then the percent to a fraction, and then the fraction back to a decimal. So we start out with the decimal, which is 1.3, also known as 1 3/10. Change it to a fraction. We write 1.3 over 1. We don't want the decimal here, so we're going to multiply it by 10. Multiply the denominator and the numerator by 10 in order to get 13/10. So we have the fraction here. We're going to change this fraction into a percent. So the fraction starting off is 13/10, and percent equates to per 100. So I'm going to multiply the denominator by 10 to get 100. And I had to multiply the same number to the numerator, and that gives me 130. 130 over 100, which equates to 130%, because percent means per 100. 130%, and I'm going to change that back into a fraction. 130% over 100. I'm going to simplify it and divide it by the greatest common factor. I have it written right here, which is 10. And I'm going to divide each by 10. And here I go back to 13 over 10. And this fraction, I've got to convert it over to a decimal. And this is 13/10. We know that 13/10 has a power of 10. We're going to use the face value of 13/10. So I write it as a decimal, place my decimal here, and we know the tenths place value is here. So the 3 goes here, forcing the 1 to go in the ones. 13 over 10 is 1.3 back to the original decimal.